Morning, all. All right, so no hockey tonight. No hockey until Thursday. That's when the Eastern Conference final starts. Friday's when the Western Conference final starts. I'll touch on that a little bit, but first we're going to talk about the Arizona Coyotes. And today is a chance for voters to let the Coyotes know whether or not they have an interest in keeping the franchise in the city. The statement has basically been from the other side that, well, if we say no to this, we can go back to the drawing board and get a whole new plan. But if they say no to this, it may just mean that the new plan wouldn't involve a hockey team at all. If it is a no vote, that could very well mean that the Arizona Coyotes end up somewhere else, as in outside of Arizona. This is something that we've talked about on this channel for years, and really, in all honesty, it's something that I argued many, many years ago, but over the years, I've decided, maybe it can work if you can find the right arena and the right spot. However, again, a no vote would be a way of the city telling the franchise that it's just not working for them. Now, Alex Mariuello has never expressed any desire to, move if things don't work in a certain direction, but there's always been an optimism that it'll work in the direction he's headed. So today's vote is huge. The idea that it's not really a big deal if they vote no, that's gone. There were talks about whether or not there might be a backup plan in Tempe. It doesn't appear that there is one now. Whether it just isn't feasible to make it work, or maybe it's just a matter of, listen, if the city votes no on this, then why keep trying? And so that's where we're at. This really could be where the rubber meets the road. Keep in mind that the NHL does have meetings with people in Houston, Kansas City, Salt Lake City. You have meetings with people in these cities just in case, right, as that backup plan. Winnipeg was the backup plan when Atlanta fell apart, and so we'll see. The plan is to have them in Arizona State for the next few years. But again, if this vote falls through, that may not happen. They may end up moving to Houston. Houston's the most likely of the places they could go, and I keep saying Quebec, Quebec, Quebec. The problem is if you put a team in Quebec that's an eastern location, you'd have to move a team out of the Eastern Conference to the West. There are 0 teams in the Eastern Conference that want to move to the West. People will always say, well, what about Detroit? What about Columbus? They have no interest in being in the Western Conference and dealing with the time difference between themselves and the rest of the conference. So in the event this doesn't work out, we may be looking at the Houston Coyotes. Maybe they become the Houston Aeros again. Who knows, right? It will be interesting to see which way this goes. But the vote is today. This is it. And we will know by tomorrow, I would think, a better idea of what the route going forward is. And of course, if the vote is yes, that doesn't necessarily mean you just bring in the bulldozers and start doing all the cleanup. Because you still have the lawsuits out there from the airport in Phoenix. And so there's still some hurdles to clear, but at the very least, if voters say, yes, we want this building, we want this entertainment district, that's the first hurdle cleared by a team that has had trouble clearing first hurdles in the past. All right, so coming out of the Toronto Maple Leafs losing in the second round, I do think there's some overreaction by some. The idea that, well, that's it, just, blow the whole thing up. It's not going to happen. And B, I don't think Toronto's that far off of having the right team to potentially win, right? But Dubas is non-committal on his sticking around. He wants to talk things over with his family, and I'm sure the amount of pressure, the daily pressure you would deal with as the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, I could see how that would wear on somebody. So Dubas is, going to talk it over with his family, talk to Brendan Shanahan, and we'll likely know soon what the plan is going to be for him going forward. He has said, though, that in the event that he didn't return as the general manager for the Leafs this coming season, he has no intention of going anywhere else. I'd be very surprised if Dubas isn't back. I mean, not every move Dubas makes is a great move. The Sandin one's one I talked about from the deadline that I didn't think made a lot of sense when you look at how little Gustafsson was used. However, they did a good job, I thought, in the O'Reilly deal. I thought O'Reilly brought them exactly what they needed to get past Tampa Bay in the first round. But it's a matter of having that right mix next year. And they're going to have trouble staying under the cap and keeping everybody together. And, I don't see any reason why Dubas shouldn't be sticking around. But I would think it'll probably be a 3-year contract that he would sign as an extension. It's not going to be a 1-year deal. It's not going to be, I can't see it being 2 either. I think he'd want some real job security. So a minimum of 3 years, I would think, for him. In that case. But let me know your thoughts, whether or not you think Dubas should stick around as the general manager of the Leafs, and who you think should come in if not. It's funny because I've seen the articles from 2 weeks ago about how great he is and how great this team is and they could win something, and then 2 weeks later it's, okay, so maybe he needs to go, coach needs, everybody needs to go. That's how that works. And fans work that way too. It's not just media. I've seen that with fans too, where from one day to the next, it'll go from, I really like our coach, to why don't we just fire the coach based on yesterday's game? All right, so as I said, hockey starts again on Thursday. That's where we'll have Carolina at home against Florida. On Friday, we have Vegas at home against Dallas. Now, the Vegas-Dallas game 2 on Sunday is actually at noon Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern. So that'll be interesting to see how that does when it comes to ratings. With the win last night for Dallas, Pete DeBoer is now 7-0 in Game 7s. And the funny thing is, they kept mentioning these things during the game last night, and I was like, you're just going to jinx Dallas. I'm going to be so mad if you guys jinx Dallas. But it is Dallas and Vegas, it is Florida and Carolina, and it does mean that a Southern team is going to walk away with the Stanley Cup. The other interesting thing, and I was talking to Yvonne about this last night, Florida never won the Stanley Cup. Carolina, Stanley Cup in 2006. Dallas, Stanley Cup in 1999. Vegas has not won the Stanley Cup. So at the very least, we're going to see a team that has never won a cup or a team that has only won one prior to this season. And it could be Carolina and Dallas. It could be Carolina. It could be any combination of these 4 teams. I'm excited to see how it goes. I know there are some fans talking about, I'm not going to watch anymore. That happens every year. Although, for me personally, there's only 1 year I can remember not watching the rest of the playoffs, and that would be 2010. 2010, I really didn't. 2014, I did not watch a lot of the playoffs. I was dealing with a lot of stuff personally, and so I wasn't able to put that aside in order to watch the playoffs that year in depth the way that I do now, especially. But yeah, I think these are going to be fun series. I think these are going to be great. Yeah, I think this is going to be awesome. And remember back in 2010, the 1 year I stopped watching, well, Vancouver lost to Chicago again. But Boston had the 3-0 series lead on Philly and lost in 7. And that was it for me. I was like, yeah, I don't care who wins now. So for me, it was more just, I didn't care. Yeah, I don't care which of these teams win. That really isn't, I don't care. So I just tuned out. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are some people who tune out. But you miss out when you do that, right? You miss out on some really good moments. Like if I could go back and do it over again, I would have watched the whole 2010 run after that. I just would have had to, just deal with the fact I was still angry at the teams I cheered for. All right, so Ottawa, their ownership submission process ended yesterday. The bids are in. 4 groups have submitted bids. One of them is apparently in the $1 billion range, and I don't know that they said it in Dr. Evil terms when they made the bid, but it's binding. So this is where the rubber meets the road, and we'll see who ends up getting it. Maybe it will be Snoop. Maybe we'll have him as an owner in the NHL. I would honestly welcome that. I think that would be awesome. But that being said, the process is coming to a close in Ottawa. We'll see who ends up getting the actual ownership of the team, and then we'll see how their building situation goes. It is interesting watching Ottawa's ownership and this sale and comparing it with the chaos around the Coyotes and all that. It is a very different feeling, although there is some fear by some Sens fans, I think, that, if somebody takes over the team, what if they don't want to keep the team in Ottawa? What if the NHL doesn't want the team to stay in Ottawa? I haven't seen anything to tell me that the NHL wouldn't want the team to stay in Ottawa. Ottawa's a very good location for a National Hockey League team, and it's a fantastic market. It's just a matter of having the building in the right spot for said market. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.